Go for Side Effects is sponsored by Wild Branch Products. Wild Branch is a truly pure cannabis oil. They make CBD containing 0.00% THC and no carrier oils. Use Wild Branch oils and salves to calm, cool, and soothe your body, leaving you pain-free. I can tell you, using this product, I was able to go to Santa's Wonderland with my family. I put on the salve, I used the oils, I was able to walk for hours. I believe in this product 100%. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Click the link below. Thank you. Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. Today we got Navy veteran, I should say, because I'm a Navy veteran. We got Alax Jones, and not the guy from InfoWars, but Alax Jones who's running for District 5 in Colorado as a congressional candidate. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for letting me come on tonight. It's wonderful.
Good. And hey, I'm glad that somebody wants to come on the program because there's a lot of veterans out there that are literally going to have a lot of questions that they're going to want, to ask and, and maybe get some answers out of this about what you're doing in your district on how you can help the veterans. But let's first talk about your time in the military and tell them what you did.
Sure. So I was in the military. I was in the United States Navy Reserve from 2009 to 2017. Got to go some fun places. Never went on a ship. So I got to be a sailor who never went on a ship. So as a master at arms, I was the Navy's version of military police. So we were always on pier watch. We were always on base, getting to raise some heck on base. And so I had a lot of fun doing that. Got to travel to some other countries, which was really fun. Went to Japan a lot. I can honestly say I still don't know how to use chopsticks after having been to Japan a billion times. I still prefer the good old American fork. But got to go to Hawaii, Virginia, just some other places. So had a lot of fun with it. Definitely got to travel more than my active duty guys. I know my active duty guys razzled me a lot in boot camp, oh, you're a weekend warrior. And for me, I'm like, yeah, but I got to travel. I got to go to Japan. I got to go to Hawaii. I got to go to Virginia. You have been stuck in Greece for 6 years. And so for me, it's just been a blast getting to have served my country and gotten to see a little bit of the world.
Well, see, and that's fantastic. Even, no matter if you're reserve, no matter if you're active duty, for you running for Congress and everything that's going on, you're in it for the vets. And,
absolutely.
Of course, I was stationed on Guam, and during my time it was 89, 93. And so, most of us guys who went over to Desert Storm, which, you talked a little bit about this, and you're very familiar with some of the problems that the veterans are having. And, it's not so much that the veterans here are looking for a payday. They're looking for accountability. How can we help the veterans? And that's what we're looking for.
Absolutely. And, politicians from both political parties, first off, I'm an independent, so I'm running as an independent. Both political parties, I think, have left us in the dirt for a very long time. Not had our best interests at heart. And I think it's time we get people that can look at facts and figures into office. And so that's why I'm running. I don't care what political party you subscribe to. For me, taking care of our vets goes all the way back to what President Lincoln said at the conclusion of the Civil War, taking care of our vets. And that's when, the whole Veterans Administration started coming around and coming into play. For me, the top part is accountability. Absolutely. And politicians always say, oh, elect me and we'll have accountability at the VA. How many times have we heard that over the last 40 years? And then every single time bureaucrats just keep getting into office and making the VA a headache. And so the first thing that we have to do is increase accountability at the VA by getting rid of individuals that should not be there. I'm talking doctors who haven't had medical practices in years, ending up at the VA, testing and laboratory equipment that's outdated. I think, one of the ones I saw, Harry Truman was still president the last time this thing had been calibrated, and it's being worked on our current veterans now, and so making sure that we get people who are qualified, getting people that want to be there. You have to want to take care of your fellow man. It is not just something, I might make this a career or I might make it a job. No, I want individuals who want to be at the VA to truly help our veterans and not be there just for a paycheck at the end of the day. So the first thing is to clean house. Get rid of these individuals that have been there forever, that have proven track records of not getting anything done, and get people in there who truly want to be there. That's the first step. The second step is there needs to be more oversight of the Veterans Administration. And it starts with the president on down. The president has to take the accountability and say, our vets are coming back with some serious stuff. They're coming back with mental health issues. They're coming back with deformities. They're coming back with TBIs. They're coming back with all this stuff, and we're just doing the bare minimum. Oh yeah, the bare minimum is go sit in line for 82 years and wait for a doctor appointment. That's ridiculous, So we need the president to step up to the plate and say, I want to take better care of our vets. And the president needs to work with Congress to get funding and get resources to the VA. That way we can use that. So if you have increased accountability and you've got additional resources, well, Kevin, the next step is who's making sure that those resources are being spent on what they're supposed to be. Here in Colorado, they just built a brand new veterans hospital up in Aurora, Colorado, which is an outskirt of Denver. And it took 14 years to build that. The original cost was supposed to be like $328 million. It came out to $1.7 billion, just because the contractors continually kept delaying stuff. There was mismanagement of funds. And then finally, they had to bring in the Army Corps of Engineers. So shout out to our Army, guys. They finally said enough's enough, call in the cavalry. And Congress told the VA, no, it's going to the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and finish the project, because you guys are 14 years and you're 1.7 billion over budget. So, we can't even build a hospital for our veterans without it taking 20 years and, $2 billion. So when we increase accountability, get people in there that want to be there, get more resources, and make sure that those resources are going to the places that they're supposed to be going, we're going to see marked improvements across the board. It's not just going to be show up, take a number, and wait 30 years. Right before 2016, if you remember back there, you had vets dying in waiting rooms at VA hospitals. How the heck is that acceptable? And everyone's just like, oh, well, that's the VA. It's like, no. I was outraged, and I was still in the service at that time. I was outraged by that, and as every good, decent American should be. And so it didn't matter if I was a Republican or a Democrat. I was ticked off by that, and to be honest, I don't think enough heads rolled from that situation. And so we can't even deal with stuff that's more recent, let alone try to help our guys from the early 90s, from the Gulf and all those through. So to me, that's my 4-step plan. Get more accountability in there, get more resources, make sure that the resources are going to where they need to be. And then lastly, making sure that if there are any, misuses or anything like that, it's dealt with swiftly and not just shoved under a rug. And it takes Congress 22 years to figure it out.
I agree with that. I agree. And see, this is what a lot of veterans are really pissed off about. Overall, especially when they come onto the program, is these guys feel like they serve their country, they come home, get a hero's, warm welcome back, and then shoved away. And then these guys come back and then they have neurological problems. The presumptives aren't a little bit of list this big. The list is this big. And right. These guys are coming back with serious issues, and later on having serious issues. And that's what needs to be addressed. The researching, no pork in it.
Right.
That should be a thing. When it comes to veterans, it should come straight just for veterans. Nothing else added into it.
Well, Kevin, you hit it right on the nail right on the head. Anything Congress passes nowadays has pork in it. I mean, look at the infrastructure bill. They wanted like $13 million for, tree gender identity. What is tree gender identity? Like, that makes no sense. Trees can't talk to us, so they can't tell us their preferred pronouns.
Right.
So for me, it was just like, really? We can't even get a simple infrastructure bill passed without it being, oh, well, actually, we're going to put $20 million in there for, the underwater basket weaving museum. Okay, well, what benefit is that serving? So same things. Absolutely. When it comes to vets, there needs to be clean bills. And in fact, I'm in favor of clean bills in general, regardless of what the topic is. It needs to be, if you can't fit it on a single page, it shouldn't be law. It should be quite clear and simple. Hey, we have a problem with this. I want $30 million to fix it. Great. It's on one page. That'll take Congress 20 seconds to vote on it versus 2 weeks, stalling, backdoor dealing. And then lo and behold, Nancy Pelosi has another library in her district, so people can go shoot up drugs. So, for me, it's just anything, especially with our vets, needs to be a clean bill and clean bill across the board with everything, to be honest. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then again, you look at projects here in Aurora, Colorado, where it's taking $1.7 billion in 14 years to build a hospital, and then we have another exciting thing, here in Colorado Springs in the district, a nonprofit veterans organization is building a whole campus. They'll have 240 apartments. They'll have offices to assist with administrative affairs. They'll have physical therapy. They'll have mental therapy. They'll have group sessions. And a private organization is doing that because the VA has dragged its feet for so long.
Wow. Yeah, and see, and that's the other problem. It's like, I think every county should have its own clinic. Every county.
Absolutely.
I don't think that you should have to go from, where we live in Texas, almost every county does have a clinic because it's so big.
Right.
But Houston, which I'm grateful for Houston. I mean, I love my clinic. I like Houston, downtown Houston. You pull up there, you don't even have to park your damn car, man. They open the door for you, thank you for your service. You walk in, they treat you. But not every place is like that. From what I've heard and understand, Iowa's number one. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody who I've had on my program loves Iowa. Mm-hmm. But Texas is right behind it. Florida's good. But there's places out there that really need a lot of help. And how is it that one VA is different than the other VA? That part most veterans do not understand.
Well, I always equate it to you go from one base to another base and you've got additional responsibilities at that base that you didn't have at this base. But then again, you have accountability. The VA is overseen by the federal government. There should be clear-cut standards across the board about, customer service, about getting seen, about billing and all of this stuff. And you've got some VAs that are run very well. And others, it's like, ridiculous. You can't even drink the water out of the water fountain. And it's like, that's a shout out to Flint, Michigan. So you can't even drink the water out of the water fountain because, you've got so much mismanagement. And again, I think it boils down to accountability. We've got to stop talking about it and start doing it. Why have none of these VA administrators been hauled in before Congress? Why have none of them faced a subpoena? Like, hey, even if you're doing something right, I want to know what you're doing. As a congressperson, I have oversight authority. Why? I want to see you in my office and understand what you're doing right at your VA because your VA is a great VA. Otherwise, it's like, no, your VA stinks. It sucks. It consistently rates poor. You've had veterans die in your, hospital wing. You're done. If you've got veterans keeling over in your waiting room, you're done. You don't get to stay on and collect a $200,000 pension and all that other stuff. You're done. You're gone.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I think the one thing that does burn my, it does burn my ass on most of this stuff is when these guys come back, because earlier you talked, Vietnam went through what Vietnam did, and that was horrible, how they were treated and heck, how they're still being treated.
How they're still being treated, right?
Right. Desert Storm. The Gulf War, it's a forgotten war.
Right.
They sit there and you go and talk to, it was fast. Well, our war was, if not more chemically fought war.
Right.
Because of everything over there. And then
Absolutely.
on top of all that, you got the guys that went to Iraqi freedom, the Afghanistan guys, and now the guys that are going to probably be going over to Ukraine and dealing with that kind of stuff. So anytime any of the veterans come back, this is what needs to be prevented.
Right.
You know, how do we get Congress, the Senate, the presidency, and all them together and say, hey, you know what? Let's prevent these guys. Because the VA knew in 95 that most
Correct.
of us were going to have neurological problems.
Right.
I mean,
well, I mean, even sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
But, I mean, even in 1994, so many mental health professionals use what's called the DSM. So the DSM is the Dietitian Statistic Manual. And so that's what you use to diagnose mental health disorders and stuff like that. And PTSD first appeared back in the 80s, so even well before the Gulf War, you know, and then in 1994, you had the DSM-4 come out. And that is where it was clearly defined as to what PTSD was. But how many people were turned away? How many vets were turned away just going, you're exaggerating, or you don't have PTSD, you've got something else, And so we've had this huge course correction in diagnosing all of this stuff, and there's still stigmas around it. There's still, misconceptions about it. There's still stigmas about it. If you're not missing an arm or a leg, people don't think that you're really hurting. And it's like, well, there's the behind the scenes unseen stuff. And a lot of my friends were over there. I've still got buddies that are over there. I've got family members that served, and so for me, it was hearing their stories. I'm like, I don't know how you couldn't walk away from that and not have something go on, but again, it's getting around that stigmatism. But then again, we also have incompetence. We have severe incompetence when it comes to our Veterans Administration. How is it that been out since 1980 and you still can't diagnose it? That was 40 years ago. PTSD was diagnosable in the DSM, and you still can't correctly diagnose it. And again, it's because we don't have the level of competence and the level of professionalism that we need as vets. And that's sad. That's really sad. And, to go back to your previous question about how do we get Congress and the president and everybody together, if we keep electing Republicans and we keep electing Democrats, we're going to have the same issue. We're going to be asking that same exact question again in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, because it's the same people getting elected to office. So, you can't fix something with the problem that created it. Albert Einstein, one of my favorites, always said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, Kevin, that's what we do every 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. With every election we have, we just keep picking one of the two and going from there. The lesser of two evils, Kevin, is still evil.
Right. I mean, that's true.
And we keep having to deal with that. So electing third-party candidates like myself and getting us in there where we're not beholden to political parties and special interests, we can really go, no, I actually want to see the facts and figures. I want to see the facts and figures of your administration. I want to see the facts and figures of your VA hospital. Well, how many programs have you, implemented? How many veterans have you served? Don't give me some cockamamie number of, we were able to save $30 million by doing this. No, you saved $30 million by cutting a program that vets actually liked. And then you didn't even bother to ask us about it too. You just sent us an email. Oh yeah, by the way, this service is now discontinued. So it's like, no. So electing third-party candidates that aren't going to be beholden to these special interests is how we can start getting effective management over the Veterans Administration.
Right. I totally agree. I mean, I sit back and I'm not a political person at all. Hey, you know what? I'm for whoever's for the job, whoever's right for it, whoever cares for it, whoever cares about the vets. And right. I mean, to me personally, I almost think if you go to Congress, you ought to go into the military to understand how our world works. I do.
Well, I mean, Kevin, we've got people on like the Veterans Affairs Committee. We've got people on, foreign affairs that have never stepped foot out of the United States, that have never donned the uniform of the United States. Especially the incumbent in my district has never served a day in the military, and he's on the Veterans Affairs Committee. So how does that make any sense? Oh, it's because he fundraised the most for the Republican National Committee, and they gave him that seat. Now, I will say this. I do have to say this. His father served, which I'm grateful for, but the congressman himself has never served. But yet he's still on the Veterans Affairs Committee. I think the only qualifier should be, did you ever serve? Great. Did you serve honorably? Perfect. Great. Now you're on the Veterans Affairs Committee. Same thing with law enforcement, same thing with judiciary. We've got people who've never set foot in a courtroom and they're on the Judiciary Committee, getting to choose our judges and justices. Same thing. We've got this whole corruption across the board, and it leads to ineptitude. It leads to mismanagement. I mean, I know you're not a political person, but that's why we have supply chain issues and inflation. It's because people got chosen by how they look and not what they know or how to do. And so again, same thing at the VA. We keep getting people who have never served or who, served in like the Salvation Army, and they ended up, now they're the VA secretary. So again, choosing people just because they voted for you, choosing people because they raised funds for you, that leads to vets dying in waiting rooms. And that's sad.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I mean, the one thing and I'll say it on my program and everything, to me, I do think the VA did get better when Obama came in. Stuff started changing when Trump came, and then Trump came in and Trump tweaked it. And now we're at a stalemate. So it just stalled. And it doesn't need to stall. It needs to move forward. There's a lot of research programs out there. And next week, I got researchers coming on next week that are going to talk about what they're doing.
Great.
But, I mean, we need to get the funding to find out, okay, what exactly did the Desert Storm guys
absolutely
digest, was put into our bodies? Because we all know that there were some tainted anthrax shots, and not all. P-tabs. So we know all of this. We know for 100% sure that we were poisoned. Okay.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
We know we're not going to be cured. We know, but at least give us something out there that tells us exactly, okay, guys, take this pill and hey, it will counteract it so you don't have the pain, the mental, the physical, the exhaustion that these guys are going through. And,
exactly.
And that's, I think, hell, they ought to put my little ass in charge of the VA system. I guarantee you I'd change it.
Well, Kevin, if I get elected to Congress, expect a call from my office.
I'll tell you, if I walk in there and if I saw one veteran sitting there not being taken care of, I'd fire whoever's in charge. And that's what needs to happen. Accountability. Absolutely. You said it earlier, and I agree with that 100%. It isn't political. It's about taking care of our veterans. Now, on top of that, let's talk about the researching. We got all types of researchers out of California, Florida, Arkansas. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, it's just everywhere. The funding needs to be done. And when you get into office, I would just want it to be one bill about that type of research and what's going on. How do you feel about that?
I'll do you one better. It'll be one page. It'll say the following are going to be funded for X amount of years at X amount of dollars. This project, this project, this project, this project. It'll be bullet pointed. You can read it in 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, and that's the other part of the problem too, is you pass these bills and it takes them weeks to read it. They're thousands of pages because they're full of pork. Right. So I'll do you one better. It'll be one page. It'll be bullet pointed and it'll say this organization gets funded for this amount of money for this amount of years. Done.
Right. Now, see, I like that. That's exactly, I mean, number one, I don't speak proper English anyway. So, I mean, I don't want to read 2,000 pages. I want to read 1 or 2 pages, and that is it. And that's all, because once I get to about the 4th page, I'm done.
Right. Well, I always joke with a lot of friends. I said, could you imagine if our Congress today wrote the Declaration of Independence, how many pages the Declaration of Independence would be? It'd be the memoirs of Thomas Jefferson, 3,000 pages long.
And I'll tell you the other thing, and this is one thing a lot of us don't talk about. Okay. Well, I mean, we do on this side, but isn't talked about. So you got places like LHI, who I like them. I went Monday for a CMP exam, and that lady was very thorough. And this is for compensation and pension. Okay, for guys who have been hurt and caused in the military. Then you got places like VES, Veterans Evaluation Services, and other organizations that you go in there They type, they do nothing, and you're automatically denied. And that's where I think things need to really change.
Right.
That does need to change. If you're not
Well,
going to find a cure, then you need to pay for what you did.
right. Well, and it goes back to standards. It goes back to there needs to be clear-cut standards across the board that when you are dealing with vets, this is the standard of care that a veteran is entitled to. And if this is not provided, then sorry, you lose your contract, you lose your funding, you don't get to see veterans anymore. Because the other thing that you run into is you find these companies or you find these so-called hospitals, they're just bilking the VA for millions of dollars a year without actually providing services. And it's like, oh yeah, we saw Kevin, he came in on Monday. You saw him for 5 minutes and then send him home. And you're billing us for, $6,000 for a CAT scan, and that was the other thing that kept coming out. The VA kept getting billed by all of these independent contractors for stuff that they weren't even providing. So again, it goes to oversight and accountability, because then guess what? That takes more money out of the VA so that they can't assist vets because they're too busy paying a contractor who didn't even build the hospital that he was supposed to build. And again, renegotiating those contracts and saying, look, your standard of care is below this level. You get one warning. You get it up to that level, great. You get to remain. You suffer a second strike, you're done. There's no 3 strikes. There's no 18 years of investigation. It's your standard of care is below what we have deemed acceptable. You're out. You're done. You're gone. You don't get to keep billing us. You don't get to keep your job. You're done. And again, we need more we need more of our elected officials to see that, and not just go, oh yeah, well the VA gave us a report. Oh yeah, because government reporting is so accurate all the time, right?
Which I agree 100% on that. And hey, and there are people watching and making comments and stuff. So if y'all have any questions y'all like me to ask Alex, y'all type it in there, because there may be some stuff that I'm missing about veterans want to know. And it sounds like right now he's got all the really good answers. I'm like, I like what I'm hearing.
Well, and what I would encourage your listeners, Kevin, too, is to do research. Don't just take my word for it or another candidate's word for it. Really do the research. And on my website, Kevin, you and I spoke a little bit a while back, and on my website, I'm not just a one-party candidate or a one-platform candidate. A lot of these candidates, they pick one thing that they're really passionate about, and that's what they want to run on. For me, it's like, well, no, I'm not just going to have that one thing come before me in Congress. You should know where I stand on a lot of issues. Almost every issue you can imagine, with the exception of the Fisheries Act. I keep getting asked on the Fisheries Act, and it keeps getting brought up. Again, another useless law. But for me, it's, you can go on my website, you can see where I stand on everything, including veterans affairs items and all that fun stuff too. So
what is your website? So if people want to go check it out, Facebook page and website.
Sure. So it's Alax Jones, and that's spelled ALAX. You can thank my parents because they couldn't spell. So it's ALAX Jones for Congress.com. And then on Facebook, if you type in Alax Jones for Congress, it'll come right up on the Facebook search bar. Right.
And of course, I did have one question. He said, other than the veterans, which if somebody's going to ask it on here, I'm going to ask, about the border and immigration. Well, I live in a border state and everything. And it's sometimes it is hard to kind of, know where other political stuff stands. But to me, I don't care where anybody stands on this, is if you come here illegally, you should leave legally.
Right. Well, and we've got laws on the books, right, that, it's not a matter of are you being racist or anything like that. These are the laws that were enacted by Congress, signed into law by the President of the United States. They've gone through the whole legal process. We need to be enforcing the laws that we have on the books. And we're seeing that with everything. I'm also a former police officer. And so, being out on town and enforcing the law out in town, same thing. We got to start enforcing the law. And that's when you have a breakdown in law and orders, when the district attorneys and all these individuals don't want to enforce the law. You're experiencing that on the border. By the National Immigration Act, the federal government is responsible for immigration. And we see the federal government failing to enforce immigration laws. And so again, it's holding people accountable. And it's, right now there's one political party in the majority in both houses, and they're refusing to investigate what's going down on the border because their guy is in office right now, and same thing with Republican presidents and Republican Congresses. It's just party politics, and we, the American people, are the ones that suffer. And I was stationed down in San Antonio, Texas, for my A school. So I was right there at Laughlin Air Force Base. And so, even though I wasn't a Texas native, I got to live there for 6 months, courtesy of Uncle Sam. I still saw a lot of those issues down there, even though I wasn't a Texan. So mass kudos to you Texans for having to deal with that, And so again, it's the federal government not taking accountability and responsibility seriously. And we have to get people elected that are not going to be beholden to Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy and all these people and go, this is, pardon my French, this is a shit show, and we've got to fix it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I know that there are going to be a few more questions and stuff, but
absolutely,
I know for myself, I think the biggest thing that I would want answered, and I mean, to me, it is the top number one priority of it all, is how do we get the veterans to connect with other veterans in the hospitals, outside of the hospitals, where they can share information and collect a database type thing. Now, you understand what I'm talking about?
Well, and that goes back to increasing the funding for research and development and outreach. We're not seeing the level of funding that needs to be there to allow vets to do that. It keeps falling to NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and nonprofits, just like what's going on here in the Springs with them building that whole complex. And so if we can get I think the first thing that needs to happen is the standard of care. We got to improve the standard of care, and then we start looking at the social emotional outreach for veterans, and creating those organizations and funding those organizations. One of the greatest examples of that was from the Civil War. If you look back, Civil War veterans formed their own organizations back in the 1800s, late 1800s. They kept in contact with each other's families. Even, Johnny Reb and Billy Yank, they kept in contact with each other's families up until they all died. And just to see that level of support and that level that they had, that was back in the 1890s. We can't do that in the 21st century. Like, come on.
Right.
It's insane.
And like me, I have neuropathy. I would like to know exactly how many veterans that have the same thing I have, that was in Desert Storm. Sure. I would like to know them numbers. I would like to know, how are they dealing with it? Have they found a solution for, their problems, stuff like that. That would create a really big help for the veterans, like fibromyalgia, absolutely, chronic fatigue, IBS. And I don't know how to put this correctly, so I'm going to put it my way. I would like to see people come in, and help one another, even outside of the VA, like other people who have neuropathy. How do they deal with it? Why are they on different medicines than what we're on at the VA?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and one of the things that, I had a special needs son, and unfortunately he passed away last year. But, one of the biggest things that we've seen in the healthcare field is home healthcare, having trained professionals come out to your house to help you with stuff, and for veterans, absolutely. There's vets that are immobile. They can't get out of their house, so they have to do this telehealth thing, which, let's be frank, that's the equivalent of having, the entire day at school, being remote the entire day at school and having your teacher talk at you is having a physician talk at you and go, okay, where does it hurt? Show me on this little doll where it hurts. For me, it's just like, that does nobody any good. Let's get trained, qualified professionals out there to your house to help. I would love to see increases in that home health care funding. So that way we can get those individuals out there. And it goes right back to it, hey, Kevin, you've got neuropathy. This is James. He suffers from neuropathy. He's immobile. Would you mind going to check up on him? Would you reach out to him and say, hey, how are things going? You seem to be reacting really well to treatment. We would love to have you lead groups or lead sessions and all that stuff. So again, highlighting those resources, but it's just nobody bothers to care. It's no, we're just going to maintain the status quo. We're going to go back to, sorry, you died in the waiting room.
Yeah. And now you brought up a really good point just a second ago about, I don't know why, home health care. So me and a guy named John that's listening in, and it took us veterans to click together, and the young lady is out of Mississippi for her father, and we were able to get her father help. The representative called me, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? And I told him what's going on. The system needs to change also on that part, where all you should have to do is pick up the phone and right then and there, help's on the way.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's equating it to, instead of calling 911 and having a police officer come out, and now you have to try to explain that, you're suffering from this condition, and then turns into a criminal investigation. Veterans are being turned into criminals because of that. And I saw that from the law enforcement side, and then the police officers were not trained to deal with that. They're not trained. They're not mental health trained professionals. So, I can't tell you how many vets I responded to that were having a crisis at home, and they were just trying to get someone to help them, and instead we send the police. It's like, well, that's not going to end well, and so for me, absolutely, you should be able to pick up a hotline, and in 20 minutes, you got someone responding to your house to assist you with something, and we do that for victims advocacy. If you're the victim of a crime and, you need help, you call the victim advocacy, and the victim advocate is there in 20 minutes. But yeah, our vets who went overseas and fought for us, and in some cases, lost life and limb, we have to go wait in line for months on end and weeks on end to get stuff. It's just ridiculous. It's insane. Now,
here's a great one. And Haley, this is from Haley Gomez. She said, how can we bring this to Congress in every state, on every national level? The government at least needs to accept responsibility for the illnesses veterans bring back from war. That includes our children, because our children are affected to it.
Absolutely. And again, it goes towards accountability, and looking at, first off, what was our reason for being there? Was it a legitimate reason? And then coming back and going, well, hey, all of these things happened. These things happen. The Department of Defense has to declassify this, so that way the Americans know what our troops went through. I mean, look how long it took to get Agent Orange declassified from Vietnam. I mean, and then all of those guys were coming back with Agent Orange issues and whatnot. And we're still dealing with trying to get the full scoop behind what went on in Vietnam with Agent Orange, and so we have to get members elected to Congress who are going to make a stand and take a stand, not just talk about it, do it. And as a veteran myself, like I said, it's very near and dear to my heart. It's not something that I'm just trying to woo veterans' votes and get elected. No, I mean, I've got family members that have been affected. I've got friends that are impacted. We've got to do better. And so electing politicians who are not Republicans, not Democrats, electing officials who will look at the facts, look at the figures and go, yeah, we sent you over there. Now we're going to take care of you when you come back. Yeah, Saddam Hussein used a bunch of chemical weapons on people and poisoned water wells and blew up oil derricks, and you're breathing in all that mess. We're going to take care of you. It's not, oh yeah, that might have happened. You'll be all right. Take 2 ibuprofen and a gallon of water, right? That's what we were used to in the Navy. And, that's what the hospital corpsman always gave us: 2 ibuprofen and some water.
They gave me freaking Tylenol. Here, take some Tylenol. You'll be all right. Oh my
Sudafed,
goodness.
expired PD, But yeah, so we've got to elect people who are truly going to make a difference if they get elected, and not just talk about things.
Right. And another question on here that John, is like the wait times. When you call into your provider or you call into the hospital, you call into your specialist, man, you can sit there for an hour waiting to
I would
connect to a
gladly take
nurse.
an hour.
Right.
An hour's on the low end.
Right. I mean, how do we fix that part? I mean, how do veterans, what? Are they going to say the crisis line is going to take an hour to talk to somebody?
Right. Well, and again, it goes back to that there needs to be set clear standards. And if your standard of care falls below that set level, you're done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're short staffed, get more people. Stop giving administrators all these bonuses and parachutes if they leave. No, send that money to hiring qualified staff to oversee these lines, oversee these weight rooms, and to stop wasting money. That's what it comes down to. It's their priorities have never been veterans. It has always been the bureaucracy and maintaining the status quo. So again, electing officials that are going to truly go in there and be like, no, your wait times are 3 hours long. Why? Oh, well, we can't get people. Okay, but let's see. You took an $80,000 bonus this year. Couldn't you have used that $80,000 to hire 4 people, to come in there and assist your wait times?
Right.
Oh, yeah, we could have. Well, guess what? Now you're out of a job. So
I know who they could hire. They can hire them people that call my cell phone 24/7 saying that my car insurance warranty is about to expire.
Hey, I say we deputize those individuals, and now they work for the VA.
I'm telling you, I get at least 3 or 4 a day saying your car warranty is expiring. Man, the guys can make a killing, working at the VA answering phone calls.
But again, and it goes back to having those set clear standards. This is nationwide. Every contractor, VA clinic, VA hospital, VA services center, your national standard is, less than 30 minutes on hold, or less than 40 minutes on hold, whatever the thing is. And if your clinic or your hospital continually has issues, well, guess what? We're coming knocking with a subpoena and we want to know why. And if you can't give us a good answer, sorry, you're gone.
And the other thing that needs to be changed is the VA calculation on disability. You can have 10%, 70%, 30%, 20%, and you're only 40% total.
Evan, I swear to God, what they do is they go in the back room with a dart and they throw it at a dartboard, and then whatever that lands on, that's your disability rating. I swear to gosh, that's what they do.
Right. I mean, it is kind of funny because when these guys, that I've talked to and me and them talk about their disability rating, and we go through all that stuff. I'm over there going, they give me 2,700 milligrams of gabapentin. Then they put me on Lyrica along with Cymbalta. Now I got a new medicine I'm taking, but they still say, but you're only 10%, and that's it. You don't have a bad case. It's like, why am I on all this damn medicine for?
Exactly. Well, so they could build a VA for it. So they could build a VA for the service that they provided you, quote unquote. And then again, you look at the bill, you were seen for 10 minutes, given 2 ibuprofen, and then they build a VA for $8,000. And it's like, that's the most expensive ibuprofen I've ever taken, and it's the same way, you've got guys that are missing arms and legs, and they're like, oh yeah, you're at 15%. You mean my arms and legs are at 15%? Like, that doesn't make any difference, it's just mind boggling. So I swear to God, that's what they do. They go in the back room, throw a dart, and whatever that lands on, 20%. All right, cool. And there's your disability, and that's good for a year. And then come see me again in another year, and it'll change next year.
Oh yeah. And by golly, if you end up having worse problems, like say my neuropathy gets worse where I'm on a walker and I go to fight that I want my percentage raised on it, they could lower your percentage. Yep. Even though you've gotten worse, they lower it. I'm like, what the heck is going on with this?
That's because the dart went a little to the left and hit the different number.
See, that's the stuff that we do need change. And that's why we need
Absolutely.
That's why we need candidates. This isn't, I'll say it again, this is not political. This is our future. This is our livelihoods. This is our lives.
Right, exactly.
The next generations who are going to come up, serve our country, don't need to be treated like the Vietnam and the Gulf War veterans.
No, absolutely not. And no veteran should ever be treated like that, regardless of which war you fight in. It's just one of those things. It's insane, and I'm a big history buff. You look back at a lot of the turmoil that came about in the Roman Empire is because a lot of the politicians of the day said, well, hey, wait a second, we got to take better care of these vets, or these vets are going to get rowdy. And so sure enough, a lot of the great guys like, Caesar was very much a vets guy. The whole 40 acres and a mule, Caesar was very much a 40 acres and a mule guy. He wanted to make sure the vets were well taken care of. He got assassinated because a lot of his stuff was unpopular with the corrupt politicians of the day. And guess what? History repeats itself. We can't seem to get clear bills, clear funding, clear anything for vets, and it's just, at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. We're the ones that suffer. We're the ones that are bleeding out, dying off on our walkers in the waiting room.
Yeah. That's a very true statement. I'm just glad I'm not sitting back in the 80s and early 90s, because I saw the VA back then and it was really bad. It's improved, but it needs a lot more improvement. And I wish every candidate would go to Iowa or come down to Houston, see how it's ran, and then go to each and every VA hospital and VA clinic and find out, talk to the vets. That's what they don't do. That's the biggest problem. They don't come on here, talk like you're doing, and talk to the veterans and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what needs to be changed.
Absolutely. Well, and then, my favorite thing is customer feedback surveys that the VA always sends out. I can't tell you how many of those I've done. Because to be honest, I've never had to use the VA, but I've taken friends to the VA. And so I help them fill out these surveys. And it's like, I know this survey is going nowhere. It's going into an inbox that's not going to get checked because they just fired that guy to give the VA administrator a pay raise. So, the inbox is going nowhere, and so same thing. You can send out all the surveys you want, but there's nobody there to review them with anybody, and then my favorite one is, would you like someone from the Veterans Administration to give you a call back? You click that box and good luck. When will I expect my call? In 20 years? So yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on to this program. I'm glad you're sharing things. Is there anything that you would like to tell the veterans, or anything you would like, some more information that you want to put out there about what you want to do?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I would say to you and your listeners is, we have an uphill battle. The two-party system is heavily entrenched in this country, and the American people have been paying the price for it for decades. Veterans even more so. If I could say anything, it's a words of encouragement. There's light on the horizon. The cavalry is coming. Listen for the bugle, because we're coming. And we need more and more of us elected to make this happen. So even if you're not in Colorado, if you're not in the Colorado 5th, look up third-party candidates in your state, in your county, in your district. You don't always have to vote for Republicans or Democrats, and really listen to what the candidates are saying. If the candidate sounds scripted and rehearsed, chances are they are. And they rehearse that 20 seconds before coming to give that speech or hopping on the phone with you. And one of the things that I like about independence is you can literally ask me anything, and I'm going to give you a straight answer as to what I think about that situation. There's a lot of independent candidates that are just like me, that are not scripted. We're not going to be polished. We didn't do a poll to find out what would poll really well, and then that's what we say, or hey, wear a blue shirt because that polled really well. I just look good in blue. It slims me down a little bit. We're honest to God people, and we truly do want to make a difference. So I encourage you to reach out, pay attention in your local elections, county elections, state elections, and start researching some third-party candidates.
Awesome. And if they want to get in touch with you, ask you questions, go ahead and say your email and your webpage and your Facebook page.
Yeah, so our web address is alexjonesforcongress.com. And if you go on there and you click the link contact, it comes straight to me. It comes straight to my friend Katie, who's helping me out. Her spouse was a veteran as well. And so we're trying to make a difference as much as we can. So a lot of our information can be gotten from our website. There's also links to our Facebook page on the website. So you can go right to alexjonesforcongress.com, click on the link, it'll take you right to our Facebook page. Subscribe. We post some fun stuff, but we also post some serious stuff because, all work and no play makes you a dull boy. So I want to make sure that, we have a little bit of fun there too. But yeah, everything's on our website, alexjonesforcongress.com.
And it's ALAX, not
Correct.
ALEX.
If you go ALEX, you're going to get Alex Jones from InfoWars. I wish I had his money, but yeah.
Right. But I want to thank you so much for coming on to this program. And I'm really, really grateful that you got in contact with me and wanted to be on here.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that you allowed me this time to share with you and your listeners. So it's been a tremendous pleasure getting to talk about our brothers and sisters in arms. So,
and when you get into Congress, we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. Like, expect a call because you're going to be at the VA.
All right, man. That's what I'm talking about. You have a great night.
Thanks, Kevin. You too.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Y'all please go to my website at goal4sideeffects.wordpress.com or email me at kevinsimon@goal4sideeffects.com. And please help support this podcast and the veterans by clicking on the link below. Thank you for your support.